it's week 2. We're going into, well, it's step 2, week 3 for us, whatever. It's step 2, and we're feeling a little less nervous. No, we're not a stranger anymore. We kind of know a little bit what to expect.
It's week 4.
It's week 4?
Yeah, girl. Episode 0. Part 1, right. Part 2.
Yeah, episode 4 of the podcast, but step 2.
There it is.
There we go. It's hard to keep track sometimes. What
right?
is time?
I know. I know.
So yeah, we're no longer strangers. Hopefully it's a little more comfortable. We know a little bit more what to expect. It's not the heaviest door in the world. It's slightly less heavy.
That's it.
I really liked that. If you guys got to listen to the episode last week, we interviewed a really good friend of ours, Kimmy, and she had a phrase I thought was really cool about how the first time of walking into recovery for her was like, that was the heaviest door in the world. The heaviest door I'll ever have to deal with. And I was like, oh,
it is.
That's real. Yeah. So if you haven't had a chance, you should definitely go back and listen to that. Kimmy is so awesome and her story is incredible. And it was just amazing getting to sit with her, and she's so just open and vulnerable about her whole experience and super down to share because she knows how it impacts other people. So well worth a listen. Go back and check it out if you didn't get a chance. But today we're diving into step 2. And once again, I have not prepared on purpose so that it is new to me again. And I have, like I said, I have a pen and paper at me, like I'm in class, and I'm kind of excited. And I feel like that is how I felt going into step 2. I'm like, okay, this is a real thing. And it's not terrifying. It's slightly frightening, but it's not like I can do it. All right, let's do step 2. Okay, Emily, where do you want to start?
Oh man, well, let's start with what is step 2. Step 2 is that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So this is, even though the word does not technically appear in that step, this is called the hope step.
Okay.
So a hope that things could be different, which I think even the idea of hope brings up all kinds of emotions for everybody.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know, sometimes hope is like, yeah, I need hope. I want hope. I have hope. Like the little butterflies in the stomach, like maybe it can get better. And then other times it's like, yeah, hope. I remember that thing. That's the thing that opened up the door for my heart getting crushed.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You know,
that was the thing that lured me out into the open.
Exactly. It's the trick.
It took my walls away. Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
Right. So, but then, you know, disappointment happened, rejection, abandonment, failure, you know, fill in the blank, the thing that crushed us, you know, crushes our souls. And then most of us, especially if you're interested in this kind of topic and recovery, have experienced that either on a bunch of micro levels over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Or like one or more giant blows, you know, that we didn't know how we were ever going to recover.
Yeah. I think that like I think the thing that like I identify most with that is like the second heartbreak, right? Like once you've been through heartbreak and it's so devastating and it's so like, and then often you're like kind of somewhere still between childhood and adulthood, so it's even more confusing, and it's like a big part of turning into a person. The second time that happens to you, if you should be so unlucky, it's like, oh, okay, well, fuck this. Like I got myself back up and tried this again, and I'm back down here. Go fuck yourself.
Fool me once, fool me twice. Yeah.
And so now I will close all my walls down and I'll never love again. Thank you so much.
Right. Exactly. I'm not falling for this again.
Nope, not doing it.
Yeah. Well, and so then that's exactly it. So eventually many of us get to this point of like, okay, I need this layer of self-protection because, you know, it's like I'm currently looking for a shower door right now.
Right. Okay.
Ultra expensive. I'm not excited about it, but some of them were marketing that they have this film that goes over the glass. And if you break the glass shouldn't shatter. It'll stay inside the film.
Okay.
So it's still broken, but it's being held together. And I feel like, are you with me? You imagine?
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm seeing it.
You got it. So I feel like sometimes that we put this film or protective covering over our hearts of like, I'm already shattered and I'm not going to let you get any closer or let myself feel hope again or love or whatever it is that we're guarding ourselves against. Because if I take that protective film off, I might shatter.
Ooh, yes.
You were wondering where I was going with that. You're
I know.
like, what?
I wasn't. I just kind of got hung up on the idea of like, why would you want that?
Well, because you don't want glass to go everywhere.
No, but it's like, it's so weird. It's like to buy something on the contingency that if it breaks, it's like a neat break.
Right. I guess. I mean,
Like,
I didn't, it didn't even occur to me about like the shower door breaking. I was like, is that a thing? How does that happen? Should I be worried about
Exactly, that's what I mean. It's like, what is this? Like some kind of brick magnet? I don't know.
I don't know. Hey, you know what? Maybe they experienced a broken shower door and they just needed, a little extra protection.
And maybe they're listening right now.
That's it.
And we've come full circle.
And and the answer is we see you.
We see you guys.
That's it. Self-protection. And hey, self-protection is a coping mechanism that it's so interesting. I love the way that recovery talks about our coping mechanisms, that they served us for a time, that they helped us survive what we felt like we could not have survived. Yeah. But now we get to a point where we say, this is no longer serving us. This is holding us back in that time when we needed it.
Right.
And so to be able to be free of what happened in the past and to have a new future that does not reflect the past, we have to let go of everything that is associated with those events, including the coping mechanisms that got us through them.
That's one thing I remember loving about recovery was that, like, so opposite from the whole toxic positivity thing, which is basically like, here are your good feelings and here are your bad feelings. And you want to try feel the good ones and not try, and like, because like the bad ones are going to make you be less productive, basically.
Right.
And recovery was like, no state of emotion is good or bad. Like, it's just something that that has to be worked through. And it was the first time I had experienced a sort of like, call it self-help or therapy or whatever you want to call it, like self-betterment, that didn't demonize your like negative feelings, because especially when you're coming in for something like depression and anxiety, you already think that about yourself, that the way that you feel, I don't know, 60, 70, 80% of the time is something wrong with you, is something bad. And then to be told that like, well, you just have to not feel that and choose the joyful bits is like, what?
Go write in your gratitude journal again. Get out of that space.
Yeah, exactly. And so sitting down in recovery, it was like, I mean, that exact thing of like, those things that you do are not like, they're not shame-based, because they're just something that served you, that has stuck around, that no longer serves you. Yeah. And so like, actually there was also a kind of an idea of being kind of grateful for the things that have got you through the tough times, of being like, hey, if watching Netflix for 18 hours a day got you to the next moment of your life when you needed it to, then that's a great thing. Thank you so much for that. Exactly. But now we don't need to do that and say like, thank you and goodbye. Just like Queer-Eye cleaning out a closet, like Marie Kondo, we thanked it and we said goodbye.
Exactly. Right. And it's the story that I always think of for this is that I was talking to a girl once who was telling me about how her dad was abusive, right? He would get drunk and get really abusive. And she told me that what she realized as a child is that, oh, if I can make him laugh, if I can manipulate his mood, then he won't hurt me. Literally, her being manipulative may have saved her life. Yeah. And so during that time in her life, that coping mechanism, I would say, is essential, because the people who were supposed to look out for her weren't looking out for her. They didn't do their job. But the mind and the soul had to find a way to be like, this is how we have to survive this. Yes. Survival is survival. But survival is also not abundant life. It's not freedom. It's not healing. It's not joy. It's not peace. Yeah. And so once you're out of that situation where you are threatened, then you have to learn how to let go of the thing that saved you, which in and of itself feels threatening.
Yeah.
Right. So, because, what she and I talked about is that in her very body and soul, she felt that if I do not manipulate how people treat me, I will get hurt. I will not be safe. And so that was something that was literally wired into her after traumatic situation.
Yeah.
And so, but as an adult, being a manipulative person outside of the context of that trauma was actually harmful to her relationships and harmful to her.
Yeah.
And so she eventually had to get this place of like, is there another way to do life? Is there hope that I can let go of this coping mechanism and still feel safe? Still feel like I'm not going to be threatened, And so that's what this step is. The step is exploring the idea of what if I gave up my coping mechanisms? What if I trusted in a power greater than myself for freedom, for healing, for wisdom, for how to do life differently?
That's really interesting because it just kind of reminded me something I'd never put together before. When I got diagnosed last year with OCD, in the puro type, which means that I don't have physical compulsions in terms of like having to wash my hands or any kind of repetitive thing, but that all happens in thought cycles in my mind. Super fun. Really fun. It was actually one of those moments where I was like, I told all my really close friends, I was like, guys, I have something to tell you. I've just been diagnosed with puro type OCD, and they were literally all like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, oh, what? It's like everyone was like, oh yeah, actually that totally tracks. And I was like, brilliant.
Which is that validating, or is that like,
I guess it's both validating, normalizing, and also like, oh
yeah,
a great sense of self-awareness, I'll tell you that much. But really one of the only types of talking therapy for OCD is exposure therapy, which is essentially exploring the ideas, exploring the what ifs of all of your repetitive thought cycles, because a lot of the time it's anxiety about the future. And so you sit and talk about like literally what worst case scenario, and then what would you do? And then what would you do? Like, especially with catastrophic thinking, it's like you play it out to the end, and once you do that over and over and over again, you literally rewire your brain to teach it that it's safe. Through like she was like, imagine like I've set you like you need to do 20 sit-ups and 20 pull-ups. Like it's like that, but for your mind. And I was like, cool. But also, wow. So yeah, I've never put together that is essentially what you do in step 2. It's like this thing I've been white knuckling because part of me, whether subconsciously or consciously, thinks it's keeping me safe. If I let go, what's going to happen? Which is a lot of the time is just what we're like continually blanking out all the time on purpose.
Right. It's like, well, there is nothing after that. Then I die.
Yeah. And I cease to exist.
Right. The emotions crush me into a puddle.
Yeah, exactly.
People have a funeral for me and say nice things, and I cease to exist.
Everybody hates me immediately, instantly. Exactly. No, I've got no more friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't be able to function.
Yeah.
I did some inner healing work with a couple of ladies once who led me just through this time of talking with God, with my higher power. And they were explaining that the heart, like one perspective of the heart is that it has 3 roles. One is function, and that's your ability to get out of bed in the morning, to brush your teeth. And
your executive function.
Yes, you're put on your deodorant and you go to work and you do all the things, right? Check all your boxes. That's function. Then you have emotion. Okay, so, and obviously emotion is self-explanatory. It's all of the fear, sadness, anger, joy. Just, imagine, what is the movie? The cartoon movie where all the little emotions are in the head.
Inside Out.
Thank you. That, right. Okay, so those are the emotions. But then you have your guardian. And the guardian is the part of your heart that regulates your emotions in order to try to safeguard your function.
Oh, I've had a similar idea, but for my metabolism, which I now imagine just to be someone sitting on a couch being like, yeah, just let it all through. No worries. He used to be a bit more active, I feel like.
Right.
And now not so much.
Right.
It's a similar idea.
Exactly. So then it's this idea that either you shut down emotion because you're certain it will be a threat to your function, or sometimes it's an underactive argument or guardian that says, I don't even know how to shut down emotion. Right. And so, the thought is, if I let go of my coping mechanisms, my guardian, that part of my heart is saying, no, you will not be able to function. Right. So, right. It's a terrifying thought. And so that's why this step, even though it sounds like a jolly step, right? Like the hope step. Yay. Gonna get better. But it's not this like lighthearted, easy, like, sure. Yeah. Hope we're all totally on board. It's a lot heavier than that.
Right.
Because you're kind of weighing in the balance. Okay, what if I don't open myself up to hope? Well, if I don't open myself up to hope, life continues as it is.
Right.
And perhaps gets worse.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a cost.
And last week I admitted that I needed to be here.
I'm with you. It's been good for me to go back through the work myself.
No. I mean, like, when you're at that point, which is like, so my choice is life continues, and I just decided that I can't do that.
Yes, I'm with you now.
Or do I find out what this other alternative is, which is frightening.
Yeah, exactly. So it's either the cost that I know, which is uncomfortable and painful, and the more you pay attention to it, the more dissatisfied I think you get with it, or I open myself up to this possibility, which feels scary because it feels like exposing myself to getting wounded again.
Right.
So for me, I wrestled with the step for a long time. It was actually my hardest step.
Ooh.
Yeah. I my story. I lost all my friends in high school, and pretty quickly after that sunk into a deep depression for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Got to the point where I didn't think I wanted to be alive anymore, and that scared me.
Yeah.
And so once you get to those rock bottom spaces, you will do just about anything to not feel like that again. Mm-hmm. And hope is hard because I'm like, well, but there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees that I won't feel like that again.
Right.
But what it came down to for me is kind of a couple of things. One, I don't really have anything to lose if it doesn't work.
Right.
Then I'm just right back where I started, but at least I know I tried. But then also for me, I realized, okay, maybe I can't choose hope, but I can open myself to the possibility of what if. Right. Kind of like we were talking about earlier, but just like exploring this idea, okay, maybe I can't believe it's going to get better. I just need to work the steps and my problems will be at least manageable. But I can think, okay, well, what if? Well, let's play out your scenario. Let's do the work. Let's have those conversations, wrestle through those questions, and what if it changes things? Like, how would that feel? And so, that was as far as I could get in this step. Is okay, I can handle what if. What if curiosity does not feel threatening to me.
Yeah. That's with the exposure therapy that I've been doing. It is at first it's kind of frustrating because it is kind of like talking to a child, because the therapist is going, and then what, and and you're like, and you're essentially like, she takes you through, or the therapist would take you through day by day. They'll be like, okay, then what happens the next day, and then what happens the next day, And at first you're like, leave me alone. I don't know, whatever, shut up. And then you just
let me die in a puddle.
Yeah, and then I fall off a cliff. But then she would just be like, and then what, do you die or do you get rescued? And I'm like, what is this? Just telling a weird story. But it is like proven to, and then you do it again the next session and it's a completely different story. But it's just like essentially like stretching the parts of your brain that are too afraid and keep you in stasis, because it's like, actually maybe it's going to be okay, and the brain's like, is it okay, maybe. Right. And eventually gets a little bit braver, but it does kind of feel like that. It feels like working like a brain muscle of courage. It's very strange.
Yeah,
but it is brave to hope, because it can be so disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so, oh nope, there it goes. I had a thought and it just left out of my brain. It just fell out. Oh, face. I got it.
There we go.
Yes, I mean, I feel like people are always talking about like facing your fears and facing your demons, and that's what this is.
Yeah.
Answering those what if questions and playing that out.
The fear factor part of the exercises.
That's it. And that's why this process is not for just anyone who, if you're not ready.
Yeah.
You have to dislike where you are more than you dislike dealing with what's hiding in the back of your head and in your heart.
Yeah. I would say from my experience, what I remember about step 2 was that I was in terms of my ability to go again, I felt very much at rock bottom. And it felt for me like almost like one of those real feisty prayers that you can have, where you're like, I am doing this one more time.
Yep.
And I will not be doing this again. Like when you tell God what's up.
Yep.
And he or they or she is like looking down at you like, all right, sure.
Then let's go.
Like, I still love you, and I'm gonna do what's best, but like I'm seeing the anger and I'm loving it. I'm accepting you, because you're just like, I swear to you. And so that was my experience. I think I was sitting there, and I probably have some journals to prove it, that I was like, okay, I am gonna stand up one more time. And if you do not show up for me, I'm gonna walk away from all of this and figure out something else. And which is, like a little baby threat to go, like, I'm gonna leave. But yeah, so that and luckily, by the grace of God, it really did make a change in my life. I'm sure that if it hadn't, I would have had a couple of worse years and then turned around and been like, okay, I'm ready. But it would have been absolutely crushing. It would have been, I would have felt the feeling that we all get sometimes of just like, okay, are you really in my camp? Or is like everything against me right now? Which I feel like we've all been there for at least once. So yeah, that's what I remember about it, of just being like doing it immediately, signing up for it, but making a contract with God about it.
Right. You know what? I think he's like, whatever gets you to just crack the door open.
Right.
To the possibility.
Yeah.
I get you. And because it's when someone's like, yeah, this is so powerful for me, it's going to be powerful for you too. It's a scary thing, because like, oh, well, if it doesn't work for me, what does it mean about me?
Yeah. What is that? Who am I?
Am I trapped in this existence?
Am I just perma broken? Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no hope. There's no fix. Brilliant.
Yeah. Yep. And so that's what makes this step just messy.
Hope is hard. My sister, I'm sure she won't mind me sharing, she has had a lot of very complicated medical conditions since forever, because of a genetic disease that we all have, but she has it much more, however that works. Science. And she wrestles with hope a lot, and wrestles with her higher power, who's Jesus and God, because every time she goes up for healing, for like to be prayed for, to be healed, or even or anytime she goes for a medical procedure, she's like, can let this be the one.
Yeah.
And to this to the day it never has been.
Yeah.
And so it's so hard to understand that, to understand of like, if there is an opportunity for me to be healed, why are you keeping me this way? If that's what you believe, that your higher power can heal. And so that, yeah, we've had some really interesting conversations about hope, that she at, at some point really it becomes this, like, you start to detach your emotions from it in a way that
Yep.
just like, well, I guess I'll go again. Well, I get
Yep.
like you're playing a board game, you know that you're not going to win.
Yep.
Of like, cool, here's my turn. Nothing again, great.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to
Yeah.
feel like dead into it. So I mean, I think a lot of people probably come into step 2 at that point too, just like, sure, why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not even like no willpower left to even wrestle with that, of like, yeah, let's lose again, come on then. I've definitely had some very cynical conversations with my sisters about like new relationships and that kind of way of like, yeah, here comes another waste of my time.
Here comes another waste of my time. Right. Well, but see then, and that's so hard because like on some level it's still brave to continue to show up. But on the other hand, if you're dead into it, does it become a self-fulfilling prophecy because you're not invested in it?
Yeah. So I think, and step 2, I think, asks you to not only go again, but be invested in it. And that's the hardest thing.
It
It's
really
like,
is.
I want you to hope and to like be excited about hope in a way. It's like, oh, you want me to what? But
Yeah.
I think that it's super important once you, I mean, and you can wrestle with step 2 all the way through the 12 steps, I feel
Yeah.
like. Because you start to interpret everything through this lens of like, is this happening because I'm hoping, or because I'm trying to work with my higher power, or is something going to trick me? Is this going to start off great and then something's going to come crashing down?
Right.
It's a tough, because you have to hold on to step 2 throughout the whole process and beyond, forever and ever, amen. Which is
right. Exactly. For sure. But again, like, so yeah, it's important to wrestle with it, and maybe you won't ever stop, but you have to begin that process, because otherwise, where are you getting your power to transform your life and change your experience? So you have to wrestle if you want your experience to be different, and so that's another big part of the step, is wrestling with your idea of who your higher power is. The book that I tend to take people through says that most people think that if there's a higher power in the universe, it's like their parents.
Yeah.
So we're right with everything that's attached to that, and so if you're lucky enough to have warm and loving, supportive parents, it's easier to believe that about your higher power. If your parents were absent, they abandoned you, then you probably think that it's an absent God, an absent force. If you had harsh, abusive, judgmental, biting parents, then again, you can think that about God, about your higher power. And so you have to wrestle through, okay, who is God really, or who is my higher power really? I know a lot of people are having to wrestle through deconstructing what they've been told about God, like God does not love you if you're not good, those kinds of things. Having to deconstruct these broken bricks, these broken walls around, on top of which they put this idea of God, and have to take it apart piece by piece of like, you know what? I don't think God is judgmental. You know what? I don't think God is constantly mad at me. You know what? I don't think God is just constantly ready to just squash me like a bug if I make a mistake.
And for a lot of people, that might be the first time that they've thought about a higher power, maybe since their childhood, maybe like since they turned away from it because of, maybe people have been told that God doesn't love you because you're gay.
Right.
Or God doesn't love you because you're trans, or whatever it is.
Right.
It's sort of, I remember it as, let's like re-examine this whole thing. As if you'd never gone to Sunday school.
Right.
Figure out what it means to you as an adult. figure out what it means to you to be spiritual, what you think that's based in, and
Mhm.
what power you think that has and could have in your life,
Mhm.
if any.
Right. And I was talking to somebody last summer. Um, Facebook had this little section that was like, ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And then anybody in like the near like geographical community could see it. And somebody was reached out about needing a sponsor for 12 steps. And her hang up is that she had never gotten past step 2 because she didn't know who her higher power was. She grew up, I think her family was Jewish. And then, obviously there's this line of Christian or quote unquote Christian
Yeah.
culture in America. And so like, what do I really believe? And so I just told her, start with who you admire.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start. I mean, I like, look at Buddha, look at anybody that look, Gandhi, whatever. Start somewhere of like, okay, where is there good in the world? Where is there truth in the world?
Mm-hmm.
And again, like you said in the very first podcast, look at the words of Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
forget the people who say that they have him, especially if you've been wounded by them. But look at the words of Jesus. What is his message about? Do you support that message? Just the people who bring light and truth into the world.
Yeah.
Start there.
I remember I deconstructed it much more than I ever had for the first time in my adult life, that I was like, I think I did start there. I was like, all right, I'm gonna read the words of Jesus. But then that got me thinking like, well, how can I trust this this book? What am I holding in my hand? And so that sent me down like the history of the Bible and apologetics and like all the things that you are and aren't taught about that. And it suddenly became much more rooted in history and like psychology and the way we think and the way people do things and the way people act, and seeing mirrors between, like seeing patterns between that in scripture and that in the Bible and that in just how humans operate. um for me, I was like, not it like, yeah, I believe it in a faith-based way, but it also just kind of makes sense to me more than anything else. But
Yep.
that was after months, maybe even years of like reading something, having 3 questions, and then like trying to answer each of those, reading different books, like figuring it out, because
Yep.
I realized that it was something that was so important to my life and how I wanted to live my life, that I needed to figure, like I needed to actually really know about what I profess to believe in.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. I've wrestled through it on a scientific level, philosophical. Like it's an important idea again, because like all of the steps, all of this approach to life change rests on, who do you believe your higher power to be? And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think there's a more important question we can ask ourselves.
Yeah,
So it's worth the effort. It's a lot of effort, but it's worth the effort.
for sure. There's a great a course I used to do in London, I used to help with, called the Life Course.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that's available online by a guy called John Peters. And because I think everyone's kind of, if you've heard of Alpha, or you haven't, Alpha is like a course that you can do usually through a church that kind of runs you through like the gospel and who Jesus was, and it's but in my opinion, my humble opinion, it's a little bit outdated, and the videos and everything that accompany the experience feels a bit twee. And I'm like, people my age that have gone very sweetly upon my invitation have just been like, yeah, I would just kind of rather like have a chat with someone over a beer in a pub, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It feels uncomfortable because it feels like going to a group that you didn't ask for. But the live course is much more, let's examine from the other side, like let's not go in Jesus first.
Yeah.
And let's talk about like people and how people and like how society interacts, and what are like, why are we meaning making machines, and where does that come from?
Mm.
And it's a much more I would say much more sort of sociology based
Mm-hmm.
and psychology based. And then it introduces this idea of like, okay, well, let's take all of that we've figured out and look at this story. And like, yeah, because we are still a church program and we do want to tell you about this, but let's look at it through a lens that's a little more relatable.
Yeah.
And it's really, really well done. And all those talks are online. Like, you'd link that in the show notes if anything that you're interested in. But yeah, I mean, like Emily says, like, read the Hinduism stuff, read the Buddhist stuff, whatever
Mm-hmm.
calls out to you that seems interesting or that seems like it might be a great path for you. I know a lot of people who find their meaning in like yoga and meditation
Mm-hmm.
and like, you know, or if it's just like health and fitness. A lot of people I know like, my higher power is who, like, is whatever's happening when I'm running. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that's great. And it's like, if that just gives your brain a space to feel like it's connected to something else outside of yourself, then that's it.
Yeah.
And but explore that, figure that out. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be Jesus. For us it is, but it can be anything that makes you feel like there is something bigger than you that can help you in your life.
Mm-hmm. And like, you may read it and think, hey, this is not for me. But hey, the worst thing that happens with that is like, maybe you'll have an understanding of a culture that's not your own. And let
Yeah.
me tell you, we are in a day and age when, well, we always have been, but particularly right now in all the upheaval, we need a whole lot more understanding of people who think differently from ourselves.
Yeah.
And hey, reading to think what other people believe and what motivates them, that's a way to understand them.
A lot of the time when I have conversations with people who who aren't Christians,
Mm-hmm.
uh specifically, they always ask me if I've read like the Hindu text or the Islam text, and I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't. A lot of the time, like, I should because like, I want to be well informed.
Yeah.
And I don't, because a lot, you know, a lot of the people I know, like, often they're sort of seeking to mock or to make fun of, and I'm like, you know, I've been through so much of that in my life that it's honestly boring to me at this point.
Mm,
I'm always like, oh sure, have a go. but
right.
no, that's always one thing that people say that I'm like, no, I haven't. And I would love to be able to say yes to that. I'm like, yeah, and because if I'm professing to live my life by one book and not another, I should probably check them both out, right?
Mm-hmm. So, I think that this is a really cool invitation. If you're not connected with us on Instagram yet, find us at Recovery Mode Podcast and comment on the images for this podcast episode and let us know, like, hey, what are some links to maybe even like favorite
Oh,
passages
so
from your books?
cool.
You
Yes.
know, um, so for me, like as a Christian, something I would post is like, I don't know, a bunch of things come to mind, but for 1 Corinthians 13, we're like, love is, and it's in this incredible and inspiring description of love. It's a great place to start, because the Bible's huge, but what's a passage from a Hindu text or
Yeah.
the Quran or the Torah, or, what's a
Yes.
passage that is super meaningful for you? And that way, anybody who reads the comments can go and read it.
Or maybe
Because,
a link to a book or a video or
yeah,
something that
exactly.
helped you identify your higher power, or even like
Mm-hmm.
just gain clarity on it. That would be
Mm-hmm.
really cool. Maybe it's like a great TED talk.
Mm-hmm.
anything
Exactly.
anything that's helped you connect with what your higher power is. Yeah, comment that, share that. That would be so cool to have as a shared resource for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or put out a post of your own and we'll repost it.
Yeah, that would be super cool.
Yeah, because again, like just tag us and because yeah, we want you to explore this idea of truth, explore higher power, and we're saying that there's no right place to start.
Right.
We know where we ended up. But we don't believe that there's a right place to start, and that there's a lot of truth out there that doesn't have the label of Christian.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. One piece of advice for someone wrestling with step 2 right now, Emily. It feels like you're the perfect person for this one.
oh man, I would say don't let your emotions tell you what is true. Not all the time, anyways. Sometimes my emotions, okay, my emotions are always telling me something,
Oh yeah.
right? But what they're telling me may not actually be accurate of what I need to do. They may be just telling me there's a problem. Okay, so case in point, I lost my temper with my family. but right before I got on this podcast, I was like, oh, this is a lovely way to start talking about health. But it is because my emotions in that moment told me I feel trapped, I feel angry, and I just should leave. So my emotions were telling me that the only way to solve my problem was to leave them. And so in that moment, my emotions were telling me something very important, that I did feel threatened and I needed to process that, but I didn't need to act on leaving my family.
Right.
See that? So if your emotions are telling you there is no hope, acknowledge them. Emotions are always valuable. They are always telling you something, but maybe the message you're getting out of them isn't actually accurate. And so there's a both and there of value and listen to your emotions, and don't always let them dictate what is true, because again, emotions are steeped in a lot of self-protection, but self-protection doesn't always set us free. Sometimes the thing that sets us free is staying engaged, taking a deep breath, identifying what you do really need, but staying engaged, staying in it instead of running away.
Love that. My piece of advice for someone going through step 2 would be, and this might kind of feel like it's coming out of left field, but bear with me, is find your favorite way to process. A lot of people, like I don't know about you, but I always get told from all corners of the internet, like journal. That's the only way to get your feelings out, journal. and it does, you know what? It doesn't work for me.
All right.
What works for me, I found, is going on a walk and listening to a podcast about poetry. Or going on a walk and with nothing and just listening. Going on long drives. I think I process through a lot of stuff driving. Journaling has just never worked for me, and I am tired of being told that I should do it. So for you, find your favorite way to process, because that is gonna, like, there's no point wasting energy on a practice that doesn't actually gonna help you out, and it's just gonna tire you out. That's what I figured out.
Yeah, for sure. Or like Kimmy said in the last episode, art. Again, the point is not to create something that you can show off. The point is to get your heart on paper or canvas, right? Or clay or whatever your media is,
or just to feel like you've processed something in some way. Don't do something because the internet tells you to.
so good. Yes. Thank you, Ellie. That was great.
It's my millennial wisdom.
Love it.
If you have been listening along with us, thank you so much for listening. It would be hugely helpful if you could take a screenshot of yourself listening to this and share it on social media.
Yes.
And give us a rating on iTunes so that we can make sure that more people get to hear this if they need it. We have a website at recoverymodepodcast.com where you can join in with the community. You can read transcripts of the episodes or download that if that's useful to you. And you can find a place to donate to support Emily and I and the cost for doing this, and also recovery programs and courses and all things in the areas, all of which we will share online. Thank you guys so much for listening. And Emily, thanks for hanging out with me again.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to talk to you next week. The interview is going to be incredible.
Oh, yes. Tell us who we have coming on.
It is Jim Cornfoot. He's going to be sharing his story with addiction and recovery, and his process that was not linear and it wasn't traditional, but he did it. He did recovery, and his life is different. And it's a super powerful story. So I can't wait to hear more of it myself and for y'all to hear his story.
Yes. Come back next week. Thanks, guys.